Perfect. So again, good evening, ladies. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chey. I am a full spectrum doula here in Bergen County, New Jersey, but I represent all of New Jersey, really. I go as far as Middlesex County. I've been a doula for the past 6 years. I want to say that the people who are in this meeting may already know me or follow me, but if not, I did just want to give a little intro. I am the owner of Doulas Holistic Services, which is my company that I started in 2014. And the whole purpose was to serve moms, to bridge the gap of care between holistic care and, our typical medical care. And my main goal is just to bring information and to bring education so that we, especially, and when I say we, I'm talking about minorities, we people of color, making sure that we get the care that we deserve and we know what our options are. And so the best way to discuss and hone into what these options are to hold spaces for doulas themselves and care workers themselves who want to reach out to the community more and make their services known. So we do monthly chats. Each month is a different subject, but very necessary. When Alexis and I planned for this chat being supporting clients through breastfeeding, who are breastfeeding, we didn't know about this formula shortage. It hadn't even started yet. So now it's like, oh yeah, we really need to have this talk because more moms are now like, okay, I have to go back to breastfeeding. Or if they're pregnant now, they're like, I can't even rely on possibly using formula. So they are a little harder on themselves about how they're going to approach this journey. So I think now more than ever, we should really be, sorry, my laptop's dying, having these discussions and making sure that us as doulas, us as support people feel prepared to support these women in these journeys so that they can have the best possible chance to nourish their babies with the good stuff.
Yes.
So that's me. I'm going to move it over to Alexis. I gave her a little intro. I'm going to let her introduce herself because she has many talents and she has a lot to share with you guys. So thank you, Alexis, for being here and go right ahead.
Thank you, Chey. Hello, ladies. Good evening. Thank you for coming and joining us. We really appreciate it. My name is Alexis Owusu. I am a trained birth and postpartum doula, but my specialty is more so with postpartum care. I've been working with families for over 20 years in all different aspects, after school, overnight, teaching, dance. Like I've done it in a lot of different places. I've 14 years of experience with breastfeeding, whether it be myself as a mom of 3 who has breastfed all 3 of my children. I'm currently still breastfeeding my 3rd baby. We max out at like 2.5 years. So we're on our way. And then I've been working with moms. I started as a peer counselor with WIC prior to me professionally. Before that, I was just working with women that I knew who knew that I did it. And so they would ask me questions, and I would work with them like that. Working with WIC, I was able to work with a plethora of different types of families, very diverse families. And because the WIC program has their nutrition program, which also includes formula, I learned how to be a lactation counselor that also considers what it looks like to have a family who is going to supplement. So I have that under my belt of experience. And so then once I started going into postpartum, I was doing photography with newborn babies and maternity photography. And it just kept building and building and building. My passion is definitely lactation. So I'm just here to talk about what's going on now and also like how we can best support the moms, because there's just so much that they think they need to do, to say, to look like. There's so much pressure that we put on ourselves as mothers. And, if we can just kind of continuously reinforce and ease our moms once they have their babies, it would be so much better. And even their attempt to breastfeed could be a lot better, you know, if they just had the right words and the right encouragement in the right direction. So that's why we're here.
Exactly. Perfect. I'm going to open with this question of for moms who are currently pregnant and they say, I want to breastfeed my baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the first step? What do you want them to know in preparation for their journey?
So first of all, transparency and honesty is humongous, because a lot of women can say that they want to do something, but, you know, they might be saying it for reasons that are not fully theirs, you know? And I think that a lot of women also feel like if they don't say it, then maybe they don't look like they're trying to be the best type of mom. So for me, when I'm dealing with moms, my first plan of action is to say, okay, what do you really envision this plan to be? Like, they need to envision what they're trying to do, you know? And what they're trying to do could be, I just want to get baby through the first 3 weeks, the month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like, we need like if we can just get the moms to like have an idea of what their projected plan is and be so honest and so true about the plan, right? Because once you are honest and true with yourself as the mom about what you really, really want to do and what you're really comfortable with doing, and everything like that, then you just can work a plan that makes sense for you and your family. So that's like my first thing is, what is the real deal plan? Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you really can envision yourself doing. Right. And then we move from there. That's like the first step, I would say. And it's very important because at the end of the day, breastfeeding is really about what you're thinking and your emotions. Like, that's really what it's about for the mom. So they got to really have an idea of what their plan is, and a truthful plan, what's in their heart, what's in their spirit, what's in their mind, what's in their feelings. What are you really feeling like you want to do?
Definitely. And to pinpoint that, I don't think that we do justice to this enough in the terms of putting together a postpartum plan. We stress as doulas, we emphasize the birth plan and why you need a birth plan, but we need to start putting that same oomph into the postpartum plan, because they do need to be able to understand, one, what they are committing themselves to and what they are asking of themselves, and are you going to be in the mental space to be able to do that, and is it something that is that important to you, because it is going to take your time and your energy more than you may believe it will, even beforehand, right? So with my clients, I put together the postpartum plan, and it looks like, hey, feedings for baby are going to go this way. Dad is going to do bottle. So if dad's doing bottle, does that mean you're pumping? Does that mean there's formula? Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Are you doing that every 2 hours? Because that's another thing. I find a lot of moms, they're told by the staff, right, the nurses and everything, baby needs to be fed every 2 to 3 hours. Don't let them. And now if the baby is feeding closer to every 2 hours or every 1.5 hours,
1.5.
okay, something's wrong. They're still wanting more, and they should be full. So are you going to breastfeed on demand, right? Are you comfortable with breastfeeding on demand and understanding that what that's going to look like? It's going to be up and down, and you're going to have a baby on the breast way more than you may want to, but are you ready to commit to that? And just really helping them to understand that vision, and then making sure that their partner or whoever their support people are on board with it. So if you're telling dad you're going to breastfeed, that means dad, baby looks hungry, you're gonna bring the baby over, you are going to give mom a bottle of water, you're going to take on another role too, I think is another important thing. So if mom is exclusively breastfeeding, that means that she shouldn't really have to change as many diapers, or she shouldn't have to do all of the things. She's on take something off her plate. So getting everybody to understand what the vision is as well is important. And the best way to do that is the postpartum plan, is to write that down. And so I'm gonna jump in and ask, because this is often an issue as well. What do you say to the moms who say that they don't want to breastfeed?
Okay. So when I have a mom that doesn't want to breastfeed, the first thing that I need to know is that having lactation consultations are still very valid and very important, right? Because at the end of the day, you still have milk that's going to come in. Your body doesn't know anything about you saying that you don't want to breastfeed. They have nothing. Your body doesn't know anything about it. Your body is just like, okay, we had a baby, hormones is shifting. Baby comes out, hormones is shifting. Now it's time to create milk. That's what your body knows first and foremost. And to get to a place where you're fully engorged, and then it can increase to you being sick with a fever, with mastitis and all that type of stuff, that can happen very rapidly, because as soon as your milk comes down, the second stage of your milk comes down, it's going to come down like the floodgates, because your body is now saying, I'm creating this, and I want to find out from the baby who is demanding it how much is necessary in this time. So in order for me to figure that out, the baby has to ask for it all the time. And if the baby's not asking, then the question is what are you doing? So even if mommy says, I don't want to breastfeed, then we also need to put in a plan in place for postpartum to schedule out and try to wean her out of the production of her milk. Okay. Because the truth is that it can take about 30 to 40 days for the milk to go away. It could, depending on what the circumstances are, right? Another thing that I would do is I would kind of ask and see, like, a little bit. I would discuss and say, okay, if you don't want to breastfeed, let's talk about that. Like, is it a full-time thing? Could you be possibly committed to maybe just offering your baby colostrum? You know what I'm saying? Just so that maybe the baby could get a couple of the little goods in. A lot of times, a lot of moms are cool with that. A lot of moms are cool with just kind of like giving the baby the liquid gold, letting them get those nutrients, and then transforming into the next thing, or transitioning into the next type of source of milk, as they're trying to wean. But I don't think that anybody should do it by themselves. They definitely should consult and find out the right way to get it done, so that they are lessening the pain, because too, also, what do we know? We know that as soon as the baby comes out and the baby starts to suckle and your breast is stimulated, your uterus starts to contract. So there's also, so this process is very important for the body. So if mommy is trying to say that she doesn't want to utilize that process, then I want to talk to her about some other options that she can put into play in order to make her, her postpartum experience as successful as possible, with the least amount of pain as possible, the least amount of emotional draining as possible. You know what I mean? Because again, breastfeeding brings up all these things. It targets your emotions, your feelings. It targets so many different factors. So we want to try to put in a plan that assists her with that, and not just leave her there to just say, okay, you're not breastfeeding. Then no, you still need help. Even if you don't want to do it, I think that you still can use the help still.
Definitely. And thank you for saying that, because that's kind of what I wanted to get to, because as doulas, right, we are here to help with the breastfeeding. So if somebody's telling you they don't want a service that you offer, does that mean that you don't have anything else to offer them in regards to their journey? And the answer, clearly, you put it perfectly, is no, because it's a process, and they are going to have to understand what their body is going to go through. And then you want to know their why. You don't have to know their why. And I'll put that out there too, because I'm one of those doulas that I'm the holistic doula, right? So I want to see where you're mentally at.
Right.
It's almost just like automatic that if somebody tells me something, I'm gonna be like, well, why not? Like, if you say you don't want to breastfeed, you don't want to, why? That's
right.
the case. Now, so I have to take that moment to step back and be like, okay, you don't want to breastfeed. All right, so what's your plan?
Yeah.
And if they start to unravel and say, well, I'm going back to school next week, so I was just planning on doing. So now I'm getting the information needed without being like, what you mean you don't want to breastfeed this baby? Who want to breastfeed this baby if it's not you?
Right. Exactly.
You're helping them to create that plan of action, and also just helping them to understand what it may entail, what that journey is, how long it may take the milk to dry up. Maybe you should still get your pump through insurance, even though you don't get it. Do you not want to breastfeed because you don't want to latch baby? And that's fine. That is your own answer, but you can prove it. If you don't want to give baby your milk for whatever reason, you're on medications, all right, you can still have your pump and dump.
Yes.
Just making sure that they have a plan of action for the choice that they're making. I often find that a lot of the moms who say that they don't want to breastfeed, it is like a cultural thing. They're like, my mom didn't breastfeed me, so I don't think it's
right.
Especially dealing with my younger moms. My younger moms are like, oh, you know, that it's weird. And I get that all the time. It's weird to breastfeed. I don't want to do that. And we have to honor that decision. While we feel it's beautiful and it's natural and wonderful, this mom is saying it's weird for her. And so it may be triggering. There may be something that isn't resonating with her, that this is something that she wants to do. And who are we to tell her that she needs to do that because that's the natural way? No, we definitely have to take that moment to step outside of ourselves. And then lastly, what you're saying about helping them to understand the process of breastfeeding and how it helps with their healing. So for some of my moms who may say, oh, I don't know that I want to breastfeed, I'll say maybe you can do, you know, if you're on the fence, I suggest doing the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks, at least in the healing time. Then you can breastfeed and get baby those antibodies and the things that he or she needs to kind of be able to even take on the formula afterwards. And
for sure,
that's a key point to make for moms, especially with the colostrum, because they're like, oh, what's colostrum? It's the thin milk, it's before the milk. But what is it really? It's the antibodies, the bacteria from your microbiome that is now being passed along through your first milk, the colostrum. That is baby's first vaccination. That is their first introduction to the environment, and giving them the first things that they need to be able to counteract the toxic environment, unfortunately, that we live in. So it's important to just give them that information and say, maybe we'll just do the first 3 weeks and this is why. And it's also your healing. And I find a lot of moms go with that. And honestly, once they get through those first 3 weeks, usually they're like, okay, this wasn't that bad. And they can get
This is true. And just to piggyback off of what you were saying about things that they experience, Chey and I, we were discussing about triggers. And like I think this is a great time to kind of bring that in to talk about the triggers, because a lot of times there could be some underlying childhood experience, an experience that happened in their, when they're a teenager or when they're a young adult or whatever the case may be. There could be something. Sometimes the triggers have to do with like what they've experienced with a partner. Sometimes it could be because they're heavily influenced by their partner, and maybe their partner doesn't understand what it means to do this, and maybe their partner feels like they want to have they want to have autonomy or say over their body, and so then they might feel like they want to, kind of maintain their relationship with their partner, and then they might choose not to do it because of that. It's a lot of different things, like mental things. There's so many different things that could trigger a woman to feel like she's not comfortable with breastfeeding, and that may be one of the reasons why they do it, so if as Chey said, if you ask, if you speak in a way to where it seems like you're not trying to be, judgmental, and you're just asking in this way, and you start to get them to talk, right, then you may start to see a couple of things that might pop out at you, right? And then, and even that, and if she still chooses not to, now you got information that could kind of help you to refer her to somebody that could make her to help her to talk through it, because eventually she's going to need to talk through it, so that's one of the other ways that we can move in that way.
Yes. And just talking about the partners again, and you saying that, and some of it sometimes, and not that our partners can mean us harm, and sometimes it's like, well, I want to have that relationship with the baby, like they want to have that connectivity with the baby that mom feels through breastfeeding. Cool. But it's not by taking baby away from the breast and giving them a bottle that you will have that connection. There are tons of ways that partners can connect with the baby aside from breastfeeding that can feel similar to breastfeeding. If you really want to, do skin to skin with the baby. Just like my mom does when she's breastfeeding. You could do skin to skin When mom is there laying down, feeding the baby, you can be laying down there with them and be part of the experience. You all can do skin to skin together. Like,
That's right.
Taking the feeding aspect of it isn't the way that you build connectivity. The connectivity comes from the closeness and the bond that mom and baby create when they're nursing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean you can't create that if you're not nursing the baby or feeding the baby. You create that in the way that is for you. So snuggle that baby.
That's right.
You're putting them in the wrap with you, partner, making sure that mom is nourished when she's feeding this baby, right? Coming in, hey babe, again, here's your water, here's your snack, rub the baby, smell the baby, kiss the baby, good, you guys are okay. You can still be part of the experience without having to make it about the feeding.
For sure.
So I don't think that many partners think about that, and I don't think that many moms are like, oh, I want them to feel close to the baby too. It's their baby. They're gonna feel close, and you just create that open door for them to have that connectivity. So as doulas, we should be there to promote that. Oh, you don't want to feed, you don't want to breastfeed, or you want him to do night feedings. All right, that's cool. Maybe he can be up with you when you do night feedings. You feed, he burp, he change.
Yeah.
You guys can have those experiences together. But there's so much other things that partner can do to support a mom than having to actively feed the baby. So just putting emphasis on that is a big deal too, and I think important. And yeah, just understanding where they're both coming from. As you get to know mom, you'll get to know partner, and you'll get to know the dynamic thereof, and interject on ways that they can connect with each other and connect with baby. And so what's my next question? Next question, bringing up night feeding.
Right? Yes, we on the same page, girl.
So that's a big thing, right?
Yes.
Moms want to sleep at night. And so they trying to have somebody else feed baby at night. But I'm gonna let you jump in because you're gonna say exactly what I know you're gonna say.
Yes. Okay, so it's very important for us to let our moms know that night feedings are the biggest reason why women's milk supply drops. Why? Because those wee hours of the night, that 12 to 5, 12 to 6, those little hours, maybe even like, let's say we don't say 12, we can even say between 3 to 6, 3 to 5. It's those wee hours of the night. Those are the prime peak processing times. When the baby is breastfeeding and those night feedings, the baby is maximizing on your milk supply. And so whenever I encounter women saying that their milk supply has diminished, the first thing I ask them is, how's the night feedings going? And every single time they answer, oh, I stopped feeding that night, the dad does a bottle. And that's exactly why it's happening. And I understand that you get tired and you get exhausted, but how about as postpartum support, as doula support, we can discuss and teach the mom, like, yo, most cultures are rooming in, they're closed in, they're in that 30 to 40 day hour, they're laying in the bed. Every culture has some type of thing that they use, or some type of process that they use to keep the mom in bed. Chey and I, we partner, we do belly binding. Belly binding is made to keep the mom laying down. Why do we want the mom to lay down? Because we don't want her to move. We want her to feed the baby. We want her to go to sleep. We want her to feed, eat, sleep, hydrate, sleep. You're supposed to be relaxing, especially in that first month. And it's very, very interesting because if you think about it in the timing of the calendar, it takes the baby also about 30 to 40 days, baby and mommy as a breastfeeding duo, to become very professional at breastfeeding. If you do the math on those hours, that's like over 1,000 hours of feeding that you are offering your baby, so that by the time they get to that 6-week checkup, think about it, 30 to 40 days is about 6 weeks. What happens at 6 weeks? We go to the doctor. That's when we leave the house, right? So everything really is centered around this timing, okay? And if we just would honor the timing, and if the baby if you're tired, check into your schedule. Are you sleeping? Or are you feeling like, whoa, baby's out of my body, I got energy, the adrenaline is here, I gotta do something? No, actually you don't. You don't have to really do anything, you know? And I know that we might have some situations where there are some homes where there's just the mom and the baby, right? But as the birth doula, right? And as a postpartum doula, let's discuss with the mom in your birthing plan or in your postpartum plan, where's your support coming from? If you're not getting a doula, who's coming to the house to be with you, right? Is mom coming? Is grandma coming? Is grandma-in-law coming? Is auntie coming? Is big sis coming? Like, who's going to be here tomorrow? Because, and I don't really know if I've seen, and Chey, you could tell me, ladies, y'all can tell me if you've actually seen situations where the family is not there. The family is always in the house. No matter how much you don't want them to be in the house, they are in the house. Everybody is coming to visit. So if people want to come visit, let's make a schedule. Let's have everybody come at specific time so that we can assist the mommy to make sure that she stays in the bed, she's fed properly, she's comforted. You guys sit and just check on her, see what she needs, make sure she stays in the bed. People are always coming over, so much so that you're just like, okay, I need to go. So it's like, at the end of the day, that first 30 days are just very important. They're very important for everything. For the baby to learn how to breastfeed, for you to learn how to feed your baby, for you to recoup your body, there's so many things that this 30 days is for. So it's just like, if you know that your mom is tired, let's talk about why you're tired. Are you doing too much? Okay, because if you're doing too much, then maybe we need to scale back a little bit. Maybe we need to call in on your community, see what's going on there. Because once you lose night feedings, that's really it. And I understand that you're getting sleep, but if you're getting sleep during the day, then you'll be able to wake up, to be honest. And it's only a short period of time. And then if dad is next to you and he's waking up with you, yes. So let's go, let's breastfeed. The breastfeeding could take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. Okay, fine. Daddy's up, tap in, you change the baby, I'm laying down. Right? And let's talk about if mommy's just pumping. Still the same rules apply. If mommy is pumping and she's setting a schedule, okay, then what's going down is that you start off with a bottle that's already ready, right? And then you start following your schedule from there. And if you have one bottle that's available for your baby, then when it's time for you to breastfeed in the wee hours of the night, all you're going to do is get up, you're going to pump, you're going to not do over 20 minutes, right? She's just going to pump for 20, make her milk, go down. Put that milk away, lay down, because the bottle is always taken care of, because daddy or whoever is there is feeding that bottle, or whatever, your partner, whoever is giving the bottle while you're doing this 20-minute pumps. If you think about it, 20 minutes every 2 to 3 hours, it's not horrible, especially if you can get back to sleep. Okay. Another thing with night feedings too, sometimes positioning is everything that you need in the world. I will tell you this right now. When I had my son, nobody taught me anything about breastfeeding. I just tried it and he got on it and that was it. I had no assistance, right? And I noticed that one of my issues was I was always sitting up in the middle of the night and I was so exhausted. By the time I got to my second baby, I learned that side laying breastfeeding, that position, allowed me the opportunity to lay down so my body still felt at rest. Even though I was awake, my body was still at rest. And if me and my baby got our situation together, I just popped my boobie in her mouth and she would eat and then she would go right back to sleep, because the babies don't have to birth, right? Like a lot of times they don't. My first child, for the whole 2 years of his breastfeeding experience, he did not birth. I tried it. It just would not happen. He wasn't a birther, So that's not even the necessity, But if you laying down, you keep your body at rest, then you can kind of feel a little bit more rested in those wee hours of the night. And when you really, really think about it, if your baby is eating between every 2 to 3 hours from 12 to 5, how many feedings is that? It's really not a lot. It could be like a 12 o'clock feeding, maybe a 3 o'clock feeding, and then maybe by like 5 or 6, you probably have gotten enough rest so that you're able to wake up for it. But it's really only like 2 feedings, to be totally honest. I've never seen a schedule where it's been more than that. It's really about just 2, of that. I'm tired, but you got to get up, but it doesn't take as much as it could take, you know what I mean? It's just about you taking your time and being patient and just knowing the information to help you move along with it, and it doesn't take long. This little bit of time where the mommy is like super duper tired and is trying to figure it out, that is a short period of time, because the baby is going to get it very, very soon. And then it's going to be a simple thing to do a night feeding. It just takes those couple of new days, to kind of get through it. That's really what it is. And that's why the postpartum support is really, really great, because it helps you to do that. And there's postpartum nurse doulas that do overnight. Y'all know that, and even if you have that opportunity, wow, that's like amazing. Or you just elect to assist whoever's at night, whatever partner, talk to the partner, give the partner the details that they need to be able to assist mommy at night properly, as opposed to kind of just watching her. because that happens a lot. They're like kind of up and they're kind of looking like, well, what should I do? There's so many things you can do. Chey even said it earlier. There's so many things that you can do. And sometimes we as that support can just kind of just educate them and get them on their way, for sure.
Yes, all of that. And even some of the things that you said, I was like, I hope she goes to it, and you did. And I love that we are on the same wavelength. And
yes.
So a few key points. Number one, that nighttime rest, that nighttime is a magical time. Okay. There's a reason why babies are born at night. There's a reason why certain creatures come out at night. You know, nighttime is a healing time. It is a quiet time. And the hormones that are associated with breastfeeding too, they make us tired. And why do you think they make us tired? So we can rest, so we can sit ourselves down and rest, and then baby's tired. Often you hear moms like, oh, baby's been screaming all night. You know, they're not sleeping, but are these our breastfed babies? Are these the babies that you're trying to skip out your nighttime feedings on? Most likely, yes, because truly, if baby is just rustling a little bit, you get her up, him or her, breastfeed, laying down, you guys are going to feel sleepy. Or and if it's not sleepy, baby is at least going to be content. So making sure that you have that time to sit down, lay down, and expand on that. Even in general, I would say, so with my first son, we did not have a successful breastfeeding journey. And saying, like you were saying, Alexis, I'm sitting up at night trying to feed and nurse in the dark, and my husband's sleeping like a baby, and I'm just like, this is not it. I don't know what's going on. I gotta feed him, and I gotta get him back in that crib. I gotta feed him, I gotta get him back in that crib, because we can't have our babies laying down with us, can we? All right, that journey about 3 months. Baby number 2, and it was just really trial and error. We got a new big bed. I had to lay down because I was doing too much shortly after his birth. And my body told me, sit down. And so I said, I need to be on bed rest. I put myself on bed rest, and I was bed resting. And I discovered side laying. Now, nobody told me about this side laying. It was just something that I tried, and it worked perfectly. And I remember the first night waking up after doing side laying nursing, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I never felt this restful in my previous postpartum life. In my previous postpartum life, I was up at all hours, at all times. I couldn't sleep. Baby, I was constantly back and forth, worried about baby. No, I side laid, breastfed, and he was in a crib right next to my bed, just like that. They do want to feel close to us. They sleep better when they're close to us. So making sure that moms understand at night to have that time, that connecting time, and to nurse throughout it. You can't just sleep throughout your night feeding. It's not good for you. It's not good for baby. It's not good for your psyche. You do have to put in some work and let that be the time of healing, the time of quiet, and of connectivity. So big on that, definitely. And so talking about positions, what are some of the positions that you recommend? I often get my moms who have bigger breasts who say, and please give, you could give us a few examples of different scenarios and positions, but I often get moms who have bigger breasts, and they are concerned about their nursing. And then I have lots of moms, me being one, that have inverted nipples. And so looking at your nipple and seeing that it's inverted, you're led to believe, oh, I can't nurse, right? I can't do nothing with this.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality. You can, there's certain positions. So if you can share the positions that you think work best for all different kinds of moms, please do share them.
So at the end of the day, with all positioning, the first key important thing that I think moms need to know is that they need to make sure they're comfortable, right? But the majority of the time, we all know, we see moms and they're breastfeeding, and they just look very uncomfortable. Like they're sitting up, they're hunched over, their posture is not good. They're trying to get the baby to be in the place that they're supposed to be in, and it's just not working. So a couple of good pointers and tips are, number one, always remember nipple to the nose, right? So what I'm saying this for is because you want the nose to be in a position to wherever the direction the nipples go. Not everybody's nipples is going like this. Some people's nipples is like that. Some people's nipples is like that. Some people's, you know, so it's like you really have to honor where your breast is laying, right? And you're gonna put your baby where that is. And so if your body is centered here, right? If your body is centered here and your breasts are kind of going this way, you're not gonna put the baby right here because your breast is over here. So you need to move your baby where your breast is first and foremost. That's very, very important. Wherever your breast is where your baby needs to be in the beginning. Once the baby gets a hang of it, the baby's gonna do what they're gonna do. They're gonna move your breast wherever they want it to be. But in the beginning, you're gonna move it there. It's very important with being comfortable. It's like laid back position. I know they talk about it like right in the beginning for the first latch. Laid back position is just it saves lives. Like laid back position minimizes for mom, it minimizes pain. They'll have little to no pain when they're laid back. Like, and I mean seriously laid back, like on their back laid back, you know, or just slightly reclined with a couple of pillows, but still leaned back. Mommy should always make sure that their feet are up. You don't have to have your feet down. Make sure your feet are up, because if your feet are up, then it's going to make you move back and slouch down. I'm a larger breasted woman. For me, I'm not even gonna say like laid back, yes, to accomplish, to achieve great latch if you're having a problem. Another one, side laying is my go-to. Once I learned about side laying, that was me all day. I was always side lay breastfeeding. Cross carry or cradle, all that stuff, that was cool for me, but sometimes it can force your body to do things that you don't really want to do, right? Also another thing, really, truthfully, honestly, positioning is more important for the baby and where the baby is laying than for you. So let's imagine, okay, your baby, majority of times, if the baby is doing cradle position or cross cradle or football hold, the baby's position is always belly up. Whenever moms are breastfeeding, the baby's belly up, hands up, feet up, right? Now think about that. Let's imagine a turtle. If a turtle is on its shell, is the turtle going anywhere? No, the turtle cannot move, okay? The turtle needs to be on all fours so that the turtle can naturally just go, okay? It's the same exact thing when it comes to your baby. Your baby needs to be downward. The baby's belly needs to be downward, connecting to the mom, okay? And so when you do laid back position, the baby is downward connected to the mom. Okay. And also, and the reason why this is so important too is because let's talk about the beauty of body language and touch. Let's talk about that. The baby has receptors on the body. The baby has receptors on the palms of their hands. They have them on their elbows. Okay. They have them on their ribs. They have them on their knees. Okay. And they have them on the tops of their feet. These receptors, when the baby is down, signals that natural reaction, and that triggers it to say go. Okay. And when they're down, that's when they can nicely put their head up and back and come down on the breast properly. Okay. When the baby is on their back flailing with the other positions, they don't really know where to go. But so if you want to do cradle, you can do cradle position, right? You could try it if you want to, but make sure that you lean back and make sure that your baby's body is turned into you as much as possible when you're breastfeeding. Turn in, stomach to stomach. That is the essential thing you want to do. If you're doing cradle position, still you can secure the baby with your arm, but you can bring the baby towards you. You're thinking about the baby's belly being on your body. You want the baby to be able to touch you. That's why I'm not down for mittens. I know that you don't want your baby to be scratching, but let's keep it all the way 100. Babies heal very fast. If a baby scratches themselves on the face, that scratch is going to be gone in a couple days. So it's really just aesthetic, you know, that's really, really that some moms are stressed about, right? So if you could just get past the scratch, if that's what you're stressed about, and be diligent on cutting your baby's nails because you're stressed about it. Baby's hands are so important. When the baby is touching the breast, the baby is communicating with your mammary glands. The baby is communicating, the hormones are exchanging. The baby needs their hands. When the baby uses their hands, all things are going to go well for the breastfeeding experience. So when we talk about position, we're really just talking about how the baby and the mom is both positioning themselves equally together. That's really the most important thing. Because when mommy is comfortable and the baby is comfortable, then the breastfeeding experience is gonna go really well. Another thing about large breasts, right? When women have large breasts, we tend to get nervous because when the baby's small head, the baby's head is so tiny. And when you have large breasts, your breasts are like really huge. And what I noticed when a lot of times when mommy are putting the baby on the breast and they're latching the baby, they get so afraid that the baby can't breathe that they disrupt the feeding a lot because you're shifting, right? And then shifting causes the baby to delatch, and then delatching causes nipple pain. Okay. I always tell my mom, think about your nipple as if it was a hose, not a straw. Okay. A hose just goes wherever it's going to go and the water is coming out of it, right? A straw is a sucking thing. So in order for me to just allow the water to squirt, the milk to squirt out of my breast into the baby's mouth, the nipple cannot be anywhere near the gums. It can't even be there. It has to be further back in the mouth because the gums are what's doing the compression on the mammary gland. That's why we ask the moms to make sure that they're aware of the areola. Now, we know the baby's mouth is small, right? So some people's areola is huge, especially when you're breastfeeding, because your breasts change. If you notice when you're pregnant, the nipple gets darker, the areola gets darker. It starts to darken when you're pregnant, right? So, you're seeing that it's changing anyway. You might see little pores, getting bigger, stuff like that. Like your nipples will start to change anyway, right? And sometimes the nipples will enlarge too a little bit. So you think that you want the nipple to be in the baby's mouth, the full areola, and you're like, wait a minute, I see some areola. Nah, that's not it. The point is that you keep on, your target is the areola, because the more areola you put in the mouth, the more nipple goes to the back. Okay. Then we talk about delatching, right? Think about that too. If you're delatching the baby, think about when you're taking the baby off the breast and you're just pulling your nipple out and the baby grazes your nipple, right? So that should give the moms also an idea of where the nipple should be. Because if the nipple is where it's supposed to be, the baby got a lock on it, okay? Because they're doing the compression and you have to stick your finger all the way in there to break it off. So that should give the moms another idea of where this nipple should be. Because in order for you to have to delatch like that, it has to be deep in there, right? So that's so my point for that is like, it's just very important to know where the nipples are going to be, where they're going to be positioned, because that's all comfortable. When the baby is doing lay back feeding, they tend to get on the nipple better. They get over everything better and they're able to compress a lot better. Okay. And so when you have larger breasts, you have to know that because everything is so big, trust the baby's instincts, number one, because the baby fought really hard to live and get here, right? So the baby instinctively is not going to just let some skin and a boob get in between them and life. They're going to back up. They always do, right? So know this too, though. Your skin, your breast, the large breast is touching the bridge of the baby's nose, like the tip of the baby's nose, touching the tip, not the bridge, the tip. So if the baby's nose is touching the tip, you still have nostrils on each side. So the baby's breathing. The baby's always going to be able to breathe. When we worry about that and we start to shift, this is breaking the latch, and that's why it's uncomfortable, and that's why we're having issues with breastfeeding. So when we're doing this, we just have to kind of encourage moms to just relax a little bit. You know what I mean? Just really relax, really calm down, and don't be afraid of what's naturally happening here. When delatching the baby, don't be afraid to put your hand in the baby mouth. The baby, nothing's going to happen to the baby. Just handle it. You know what I mean? Because you want to keep yourself safe. Okay. You don't want to break skin. Okay. So it's just about encouraging mommy to calm down and just laugh. So that was my whole thing about large breasted women. Is one thing to really remember is don't be afraid that your breast is overpowering the baby. Because even if it is, we can adjust the baby really quick. That won't pull the baby off of you and get the baby to a place where you feel comfortable. We can do that easily. There was one other thing I wanted to point out with that. We were talking about position. Oh, inverted nipples. Okay, boom. Same thing. Inverted nipples, 9 times out of 10, is not even really the issue because, again, we are not nipple feeding. We are breastfeeding. The areola is really in the mouth. The nipple is really back there. So if you really think about it, do you really need your nipple? You really just need your nipple to push milk out. That's all you really needed to do. So even the inverted nipples thing, that's really not a barrier. It's really a mental thing because you really don't breastfeed on a nipple. You don't nipple feed, you're breastfeeding. So it's a totally different thing. So even with that, once we get the latch and we get it right and we get the baby on there, everything else is going to be fine. So I think that's it. I think I caught it, right?
I think you did. Yes, very much.
Okay.
And fun fact, just what you were saying with the breathing, our babies, this is why they don't have bridges. You know, our babies aren't born with this bone here, right? And they're
Okay.
they have flat
Right.
noses. And that's because they're just breathing out the nostrils. It's coming directly. They breathe sideways. They don't breathe up and down. So even if the breast is here on the nose,
yes,
they're breathing out the sides.
yes.
So they're fine. So this is why we got our little flat nose babies, and they get their nose later on.
Yes.
So that is always a concern. And I tell my moms, if you can see her nose, his or her nose, they're breathing. Right now, if you can't see the nose, then there's a chance that they're not breathing. But if you can see the nostrils, that means they're breathing. So thank you for that. And then definitely what you were saying about the inverted nipple, because that is how I learned to properly breastfeed and not nipple feed, right? Because I noticed, wait, this nipple looks different than the other one. And
right.
This one is in a little bit. And I was like, I can't latch a baby on a nipple that is in like that. What did we do? We did football holds, because the top of my nipple is out just a little bit more than the bottom, because that's the inverted nipple. And with football hold, it was enough nipple for them to latch, to inhale that in, for it to get to the back of the throat. What happened after a few sessions of breastfeeding, it's no longer inverted, right? Because of our nipples, it's pliable, it's soft, it's moldable.
Yeah.
So then I would notice after the nursing session, okay, the nipple isn't inverted anymore. But as the day goes on, it kind of goes back in, and that's how it goes. And that's how it goes with nipples in general. I have a lot of moms who have flat nipples, and they're like, I can't breastfeed with these. Again, all you have to do is make sure that the areola is in baby's mouth. They will get the nipple, and it will protrude a little bit after a session. And that's a good way of knowing when you're done with the nursing session if it was not a good one or not, but if it was nipple friendly or not, right? Because if you did a nursing session and then you pull out and your nipple looks damaged, or it looks what they call lipstick, then you know that wasn't a good latch. So that means that you have to get baby to open their mouth wider, or really put the breast in there. And so that brings me to the next point of proper nipple care, proper breast care, because what I often find is moms will prefer to go to a pump, or to they're a little nervous when it comes to breastfeeding, because they experience pain, and like anything, feel some pain, you don't want to go back to that. You don't want to feel that again. And you have lots of moms who go for latching, and they're pulling away, right? Like they're saying, I want to breastfeed, but they're really kind of backing up when it's time to put the baby on the breast. And so for these moms, and for us as doulas, how can we get moms to care for their nipples better so that they can more successfully breastfeed? What are some things? For example, I always say you need to get the nipple cream. I like the nipple balm, the Mama's Baby, because it will be a little sore. You may get a little nick or two, and with that, it pulls it up, it lubricates it, keeps it from cracking. So I always suggest that. But touched on the proper way to unlatch baby, but are there any other ways that a mom can care for her nipples?
Yes.
To nurse.
Yes. So nipple cream, is great. Another option, if you don't want to do nipple cream, is the breast milk itself. The breast milk has healing qualities, has healing properties in it. So I normally, whenever I'm giving my lactation sessions, I normally end it with telling mom, number one, never put your breast away wet. Always allow your breast to air dry. And what you want to do when you're doing that is you want to express your breast milk out, and you might have some residue anyway from the breastfeeding. It all depends, especially when you're new, because your one nipple will be dripping and the other one will be doing its thing. So what we always want to do is tell the moms, take that milk, put it around the areola, put it all the way around the nipple, let the breast air dry for a couple of minutes. And once it air dries, put it away. Because actually sometimes if you put the breast away and it's still wet, that can even contribute to your pain. That's that part. That's really, that's like my major one, is put the breast away dry and healed up and moisturized. That's like the major one that I would say about caring for the breast. because everything else besides that is just the latching, which we discussed. That's the other way to care, is how to latch and delatch the baby. And then just being susceptible to supply and demand. You know what I mean? Like your nipples and your breasts are going to be okay if you're getting the milk out like you're supposed to. And so with that, I just want to jump in on pumping, because sometimes women seem to think that pumping is the way to go, but we don't even like to encourage pumping within that first month, because sometimes the pump can be a hindrance to the breastfeeding process. Sometimes babies pop off the breast because there's too much milk coming at them at one time. And the person and the thing that's going to do that is the machine. You got to think about this here. This is a baby and this is you, and y'all are both human beings and you have your own rhythms. The baby is dictating the rhythm of the way the milk is flowing every time they gets on the breast, with the saliva and the receptors and the signals that's being sent to the mammary glands. That's a whole rhythm in itself. The breast pump doesn't offer that rhythm. The breast pump does one thing every time you bring your breast to the pump. So what ends up happening is that now you're like over asking, like you're asking the breast to do too much. The breast is already trying to accommodate the baby, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, your breast is already, your body is already producing a surplus of milk, right? Because your body is trying to taper it down according to the baby's eating habits, right? Because the baby might not eat the same way every time. The baby will eat the same way every time with the bottle, because the same amount of milk is in the bottle, but at the breast, not so much. You might have an hour feeding, but then another minute, you might have a 15 to 18 minute feeding. It all depends on what the baby is doing. Just like us as humans, we don't eat the same every minute and hour of the day, right? So at the end of the day, we don't suggest it unless we have we have a plan that's in process that makes sense, okay? Because again, like I said, the pump can actually be a bad part of the process when you're trying to lock down how to do this with the baby. So I didn't want to jump on pumping with that, because that was just really important to talk about that sometimes pumping can be a hard thing. So it's like asking for the milk, nipple care with the express breast milk, letting the air dry, and proper latching and delatching. Those things are what's going to keep the body. And if you have a nipple cream, because I don't subscribe to nipple cream like that, but there are some times, even in this last baby, where I would need to pull the nipple cream out because it was like a lot going on. This baby was special. He was tongue tied. He had a posterior tie, an anterior tie, and he has a lip tie. So he had all three ties, right? And so we had to work through that hurdle, okay? And so in this stage with him, there was some times where it got a little crazy and I just had to pull the nipple cream out so I can kind of just like heal up and get myself moisturized a little bit more, just a little bit additional. And that helped for me. And sometimes the nipple cream just made things even better than as an additive, you know? So those are the ways that I would say to care for the nipple. Chey, there was a question in the chat.
I saw it. Yes, for C-section moms. So how long does it take milk to come in fully? I'm going to jump in and say that all moms, we typically have whether it was a C-section or a vaginal birth, we typically get our colostrum within the first few hours. Right, if not the hour, and then our milk comes in about 3 days. The lapse with C-section moms is it can be, I haven't had a mom go up to 24 hours, but it can be up to 24 hours depending on a few things. The medication that mom may have been on prior to the C-section, during the C-section, because it depends. Of course, if you're on a narcotic, your body responses are going to be slow. 2, if it was a long birth and then they went in for C-section, our bodies undergo trauma. Trauma itself can stop us from doing a lot, including producing milk. So generally a C-section mom that has had a good C-section, her milk comes in within the first 2-3 hours, but it can take up to 24 hours for a mom. And depending on what their medical inconveniences may be, it can sometimes take longer. So one of the best things we can do as doulas, because with C-section moms, you know, there's that period after they come out, that baby's in the warmer, and that we're just sitting with mom. I don't just sit with mom. I'm glad you're here, you know, you're well, mom, you're here with me, baby's healthy, you're healthy. The minute the nurses and doctors come out and are done poking and prodding, we're gonna manually express. And so we do some manual expression for one of two things. By the time baby gets to them, baby's often sleeping, and mom is often sleeping. So we don't want to interrupt and be like, hey, mom, latch the baby, because you get extremely tired after a C-section, right? So we do manual expression as quickly as we can. And I say, I know that you want to rest, but let's just see if we can get a little something. And then this way also, as the doulas, we can gauge, is she producing? I don't leave a session with a mom, whether it's vaginal or a C-section, before checking her that milk is coming, and then making sure that they are going to see a lactation consultant. Like, I want to make sure that somebody is going to come and check on you again, especially if we've been manually expressing, because that means you haven't gotten to latch baby, and we want to make sure it's successful. So we're going to do some manual expression and then have a lactation consultant check in. When I get home, I say, hey, I know you're in your room now. Has the lactation consultant come around? Let's see if we can get them. And then if not, I'll be honest, I text Alexis and I say, this mom hasn't been seen by anyone yet. Maybe you could jump on a Zoom, or, you know, go and check on her and see how it's going. But a C-section mom really should be able to nurse within the first few hours of baby's life when they get here.
And I just want to jump in on that too, with the manual expression doulas. What we need to remember is this. First of all, if they need to supplement for whatever reason, the 2-ounce bottle is not the measure. When you are doing manual expression, you only need to get out of the breast every 2 hours, 0.5 milliliters of milk, which is a teaspoon. That's really all that you need. It is a very small amount of milk. So if mom is able to accomplish 0.5 ml or a teaspoon worth of milk, she is successfully producing milk. It's not a lot of milk in that first time. Okay, it's very, very small. So I would say, please, I would encourage you, don't allow your clients to believe that their benchmark is 2 ounces.
Yes.
It's definitely not. But and another thing is, it's very small. And another thing to know too, just because your baby can, let's say for some reason they take it to the nursery and the baby downs 1/2 ounce, or maybe 1 ounce of milk, that still has nothing to do with what you put out your body. Because at the end of the day, you're getting 0.5 out of each out of the breast as a total. Right? You're not asking for 0.5, you're asking for a full 0.5 out of both breasts. So that could seem very, very small, right? But that is what your body's supposed to do. And I think that it's very important for the moms to get that their body is only supposed to do this, and be confident in that, so that they don't get nervous about what they do not have. You're not supposed to have that. That doesn't come yet. You get what I'm saying? And so, and sometimes that's what ends up happening is that mommies go home very, very discouraged, because they've been looking at this 2-ounce bottle all day, and they've been seeing somebody's been feeding them half of this 2-ounce bottle or the full 2-ounce bottle. And now the mom feels like she needs to make up for it. And you actually really don't need to make up for it, because at the end of the day, let's say your baby is down to that much. If you pump maybe 2 to 3 times in a 24-hour time session, you can get your bottle. So it's really about knowing that your body can do it. Even if there needs to be something else going on, your body still has the goods. It's just that this situation is a case where I need a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that I don't have it.
And talking about the bottle, it's easy. And this is my hope for all doulas. If we can tell all doulas to tell their moms this, a baby's natural reaction to putting something in their mouth is sucking. So
yes,
just because you a 2-ounce bottle and baby has drank 1 ounce, and the nurse is like, oh yeah, it seems like that's enough, and they're full. Baby was probably full, 1/2 ounce or so. but
Yes.
there's the bottle in their mouth. They can't say no, right? So they may fall asleep, and then that's indication, oh, they must be full. But some babies don't. They may not be sleeping, may not fall asleep right away. So
Yeah.
trying to measure the amount of milk you're giving by giving through this bottle and being very stringent on these numbers. I feel like it's a surefire way to discourage women.
Yes.
I don't care. You can't convince me otherwise, government, that you're not trying to discourage my mamas from their feeding by putting these bottles in this baby's mouth and telling them, okay, this is what baby drinks now.
Agreed.
So when they're nursing, and I'll tell you this, this is Kaya, okay? I do not know how many ounces of milk Kaya drinks. I have no clue. She is exclusively breastfed, but I know that she is fed well.
Yes. Period.
If I was to sit there and try to measure what she was drinking, because I fed her a bottle and I'm sitting there going, oh no, she only drank 15 minutes this time, and last time she did 30, I would be stressed out too. We are
very much so.
How baby is leading us. It's going to look like a lot sometimes and less another time. Another thing to bring into the forefront is with the switch off of formula and nursing, your feeding sessions are going to look different. Yes. And so moms start to say, I think he prefers the bottle, right? Or it seems like the bottle is better for them because they sleep longer. They're, he's fuller faster. Yes, they are full faster. It's not the same hormones as when you are nursing that gets them in that REM, that sleep wake lapse. And on top of that, he has no other choice. With his bottle in his mouth, he has to drink it, right? And then he will sleep for a longer period of time because the milk does stay in the stomach for a longer period of time. It's processed, so it takes a little while for the process to get through the system.
That's right.
Again, so if you fed bottle milk and then mom after the bottle milk is trying to nurse baby, and they're like, oh, baby's, he's not trying to drink milk, they're not trying to latch, they don't seem like they're happy with the breast. It may not be that they're not happy, it could very well be that they're still full from that formula feeding from earlier. So I do try to tell my moms to pace feed, right? And to offer the breast as much as possible. I'm not saying don't do formula, but offer the breast first, and then you can top up with formula if it seems that baby is still hungry afterwards. But to start with formula and then be upset in 2 hours because they're not trying to go for the breast, it's counterproductive. It's not, you're gonna start to doubt yourself. For sure. And also just reminding all moms that as long as baby is peeing and pooping, they are getting enough. The number one that I get from my moms is, how do I know they're getting anything? If baby was not getting anything, they would not still be on the breast. They would not be happy with you if they were getting nothing from it. And the feeding will look longer on the breast because there's that sleep wake.
Yes, thank you.
But it doesn't mean that they're not satisfied. They're very satisfied. They are happy. They are comforted. It's not as easily accessible as in the bottle. In the bottle, you feed in 15 minutes and they're full and good. On the breast, like 30, 40, an hour of nursing, and it's not because you're not producing. Again, it's just the flow, the rhythms that we go through with baby and mom are different. The hormones are different. Our breasts have the fore milk, right? And then the hind milk, like it's a whole process. The process and normalize that process. I feel like as doulas, just encouraging moms, even when they're like, I don't know, keep going. Now, if baby's not getting any poop or pee diapers, baby is constantly crying and screaming, baby is not a happy and content baby ever, now we can put into question, is it the milk supply? And you can try other things, but don't be deterred so quickly, right? Keep on going for as long as you can. Another thing to add with the weight, moms often stress the weight of baby. The baby was born 7 pounds 6 ounces. Y'all left the hospital, went to your first pediatrician appointment, and baby was 7 pounds 2 ounces. And now you're like, why is my baby losing weight? And it has nothing to do with you and your breast milk. Usually babies lose weight when they leave the hospital. Baby was sitting in the water. If mom was hooked up to an IV, baby got even more water. It's water weight. They're going to shed it. upon birth and upon a few days in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to double that up by your 6-week appointment usually. And that's due to those night feedings too.
Yes. And also I want to jump into with that, please, like, talk to them about their pediatrician, because sometimes, because the truth is that the pediatricians, the pharmaceutical companies have contracts with them. Okay. And they have to push the formula that's in their place. So if a mom is really trying to accomplish breastfeeding and she's really not trying to do formula, and the pediatrician comes out with this, oh, well, the BMI was this way and da 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 da, have her ask questions, have her understand what it is. The scale sometimes for measuring a baby is a lot of times based on babies who are completely formula fed as opposed to breastfeeding babies. Breastfeeding babies fluctuate in what they're going to do with their sizes. Some babies could be huge, some babies could not. There's a lot of different things factored in there. And sometimes the doctor might just be saying what they need to say so that they can tell you what they need to tell you in order to push whatever they need to push. So it's just like, know your pediatrician too, and really talk to them and tell you, and tell them to know their pediatrician, talk to them, make sure it's, make sure they're really coming, they're on the up and up with what they're sharing with you, because it could be just a fear tactic, you know what I mean, to get you to do what you're going to do. And Chey and I can only say this because we just worked with a family that was dealing with this, and the family, and I don't think that the doctor was factoring in cultural differences and all that type of stuff. I don't know, but there could have been a lot of other factors involved that was making it the situation that it was. And it stressed out the mom. It stressed her out bad, So it's like, sometimes the doctors, they got their own ulterior motive, and they have, so it's just about the client being very comfortable with who they're getting their advice from as well. Even if it's a doctor, you ask questions. Don't just take it for just what it is, because some doctors won't even tell you that the babies lose weight. Some doctors will just say the baby lost weight, you should supplement. They don't even tell you that happens. It happens to all babies. Yeah. So
and we're not anti-doctor, but doctors know what they know, and the stuff that they don't know, right?
Yes.
And often they do not know the process of breastfeeding, what that looks like, and then taking into account the different cultural backgrounds of the mothers that they're dealing with. What they do know is formula. What they do know is the measurements thereof of the formula.
Exactly.
They could tell you how to make a bottle and how much the baby will gain when they take the bottle, however many times they take it, but don't factor in all of the things that are evidence-based for us, for the mom. So another big thing as the doulas, I feel I always check in with my moms at their first week appointment, because that's also when it's easy to make or break them, right? They're nervous. They just got this brand new baby, and they go into this place, and this person is telling them that what they're doing is possibly wrong. Who do they turn to? The doula. You want me to come in the office with you? You want me on FaceTime? Let's have this, be a tele visit, because they need that support. Even in that time, that postpartum support is everything, just for those visits, because it plays a lot on their psychological and physiological, because if they believe something in their mind, we already know what happens to the body. So if mom
they're so vulnerable,
and saying that she can't do and it's not working, it's going to end up not working. Once they start stressing out about it, there are hormones being released, and if those hormones are being released, that means that the oxytocin and the serotonin is not flowing the way that it needs to, and so moms will have a hard time, and what they believe to have been true will start to come to pass. So being in their ear before the doctor is in their ear, I think, is definitely key. If you can support them, let them know what they'll possibly hear, and then encourage them that they are doing well, even despite what the doctor is saying. Now, we're not going to discredit the things that they say. Take everything
into consideration.
We have to understand that they don't know everything as well, and we have to support our moms through that and giving them the different options. And in talking about just the stress factor, and that I just wanted to touch on when I'm saying dealing with doctors, talking about our hormones, talking about mastitis and how to support moms through that as well. For those who don't know what mastitis is, it is when a milk duct is clogged. It usually happens after engorgement. Meaning that mom, for whatever reason, was not feeding baby actively, and the breast milk starts to back up. They will get a hard feeling in the breast. The breast will be a little lumpy. They'll kind of be erect because, you know, breast milk, full breasts are like bouncy and buoyant, right? We have big, full jugs of milk, but once they start looking gravelly and
hard and heavy,
yes, that is engorgement. And if it's not expressed in the clogged state, the ducts stay clogged, they can develop an infection, leads to mastitis. Now, I had mastitis with my second, and if I wasn't a doula and didn't know what I knew upon going into the doctor's office, I would have stopped breastfeeding then. When I went into his office, he said, you have to take this antibiotic and you cannot feed the baby because this antibiotic is no good for the baby. So you're going to have to pump and dump, or you just can't feed. Being the doula that I know that I am, I said, one, I can breastfeed my baby even now with mastitis and breastfeed through that. And I'll consider taking the antibiotic after. Let's see.
But there's also alternative antibiotics though too. That's the one thing I did learn. There are antibiotics that don't go into the milk as fast. And in timing, they can be taken without affecting the baby too. There's always alternatives. You can always ask the doctor for an alternative, especially so that's another thing that you do. You consult with a lactation person and they would know. Yes. You know what I mean? What is good and what's not good for that.
And helping through the engorgement for a mom who has mastitis, one of the number one tips that I always give is a breast massage. Because the milk gets trapped in different places, especially, you know, we fell asleep on the breast. Now it's hard and it's kind of positioned this way. So even before a regular feeding, I try to promote moms to get familiar with their breast, the way that it feels, make sure it's not, there's no hard patches, no warm patches, and massage the breast for the feeding. And then if they happen to be engorged, we have to massage, and starting with manual expression, because what happens with engorgement too is because you're so full, when they go to feed the baby, the milk is shooting out at them, right? Very intense letdown, and baby may not be able to drink all of that. So doing some manual expression to soften the breast a little bit so that the milk wouldn't be painful, and that we're not choking the babies with the milk. I don't know if you have any other tips, Alexis, that would help do that.
Sometimes the compress, sometimes not just a warm compress, sometimes a cold compress can assist too. Because if you really think about it, mastitis is inflammation, and inflammation normally runs hot. That's why the woman's breast is really red too. That's another signal that you're like fully engorged, because your breast will be like really red and even veiny, right? Like the veins will be like the milk ducts, you could like see them pressing. So like sometimes like we in trial and error, we learned that like sometimes if you do a little bit of a cold compress, because too much of a cold compress can decrease. So you're just doing like a small amount of a cold compress and then following it to bring down the heat, and then maybe follow it with a warm, depending. But sometimes you might have to just use the cold compress to kind of get to massage it down a little bit first before you even put the heat on it, because sometimes the heat upon heat is not helping it. You know, sometimes you got to knock it out with some cold first and then bring it back to the other part. So that's one of the things. But everything else that you said is definitely on point, for sure. Yeah. Just that, and just frequency and everything like that. And it'll come down. It definitely will.
And I'll just throw in there as well that some moms think that they can't nurse because the breasts are hard and nothing is coming out, and they think something is wrong. Your milk ducts are clogged, so it will be harder for milk to come out. So giving them that hot and cold compress kind of eases that, to soften the breast enough that you can express some of it, so that milk does start to flow. Because there is a point of engorgement where nothing is happening because you are so full that it can't come through the nipple because the ducts are pressing against itself. So cold combination compresses everything as well. And I'm going to say that I have asked all my questions for the evening.
Question, you see it?
Not sure it was a good, because but what about steps? Okay, thank you, because
Okay.
Alexis and I definitely said we were going to talk on this tonight.
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
was
yes,
about to not talk on it.
yes.
So
Want
I
me
don't
to
know if
go?
you want to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah. So with relactating for the formula shortage, so before we get there, right, we definitely have to talk about like how far away is the how far has it been since the time to the time span of when the mom stopped breastfeeding and when she wants to restart. If the mom has stopped breastfeeding and it hasn't been about 30 to 40 days, they for sure definitely can start to bring back their milk supply. The further away that you get, the harder it is going to be for you to get the milk back in the way that you would like. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that it's going to be a challenge to bring it back, because you're going to have to be diligent about it. And this is very interesting because the same way that you have to relax, as you said, 4 to 5 months. So the one most important thing that I would say is that number one, there's certain herbs and certain medications that are out there. There's a lot of different things that are circling, right? And what I want to stress upon is that number one, if you're going to try to do this with a herb or a medication, you definitely want to consult with your physician to make sure that the medication or the herbs that you're trying to take are not going to be counterproductive with something else that's going on in your body, something that's happening with the baby. Like, you want to make sure that it's not going to do more harm than good. Like we were I was speaking with IBCLC that I know, and and Chey and I were talking too, and we were talking about how fenugreek, people like to use it, right? But sometimes fenugreek can give you an adverse effect that you're not looking to have. So you really have to take your time and watch to see what the ingredients are for things, what's inside of things, before you just go and start taking things. Repetition is very important. This is pumping schedule, and this is important for whether you are just trying to naturally lactate in general, or if you're trying to relactate. The bottom line is that you have to stay on top of your schedule. Okay, you can't go past 2 to 3 hours per time to stimulate, whether you are breastfeeding already or if you're trying to bring the milk back. You have to stay on schedule. 22 to 3 hours in a 24 time span is about 8 to 12 stimulations, whether that be a stimulation from the child or a stimulation from the pump. You still have to stimulate frequently. So you can even talk to your moms when they have the baby. If your mom is only breastfeeding 4 times, your mom is only pumping 4 times, 5 times, 3 times, that's not enough. Because even still, if you were just making a bottle, your baby still has to have the bottle every 3 to 4 hours. So that's still about 8 feedings. Okay. So consistency and frequency is very, very important in order to get this done. And you have to give yourself time to see an increase. A lot of times when women are decreasing in milk or trying to increase their supply, they think that after the first pump session, they're going to see a difference, but it doesn't. It takes 2 to 3 days for your supply to dip and to raise. It always takes 2 to 3 days. So whatever you're trying to do in your plan, if you're trying to bring it up or bring it down, give yourself 2 to 3 days of a consistent thing, a consistent schedule, in order to see the change. It's not going to happen in one pump session or one stimulation session, breastfeeding session. It's not going to happen like that. It's not even going to happen in the first 24. You need about 48 to 78 to 72 hours to really see a change, right? But I will say too that we were discussing, there's some other options too when it comes to formula, because you may end up being in a situation where you're able to get your supply up, but maybe you're at a place where it's not enough for the baby still. It doesn't mean that it's a problem with you. It just means that your baby is used to something right now. Okay. You may have been able to get 8 pumping sessions and you're pumping out 2 ounces every time, right? 2 ounces is beautiful for somebody who hasn't done it in 4, 5, 6 months. That's amazing. However, your baby is 5 months now and your baby's about to transition into eating solids. So your baby's probably drinking a 4-ounce bottle, right? So you may have to accommodate for that and still supplement, right? But that doesn't mean that you haven't brought the milk back. It's just not as much. So keep in mind to your moms who are trying to do this, that they need to have realistic expectations, right? And just really try their best, try to stay rested, because breastfeeding and milk stimulation is really about emotions. And when you're not rested, you are stressed out and tired. And if you're stressed and tired, you're not going to perform well at the pump. And then there are some people who just don't perform well at the pump at all. And they can breastfeed out their breast for forever. But when they get to the pump, they get frustrated or they get annoyed or they get tired or they get irritated, and they're just like, okay, and it doesn't work, because breastfeeding process is really emotional. It's top. It's an emotional process. That's why it happens the way it does between the child and the mom, because it's a very emotional process. And if you are in a place where you're stressed out, upset, angry, anxiety, all those type of things, they all work against you when you're trying to produce. Okay. It happened to me that I was trying to pump and I was tired, and my baby was like 3-4 months. He's breastfeeding me beautifully. However, when I got to the pump, I was just like, I'm not trying to do this right now. And so nothing came out of my breast the whole time I was sitting there. That doesn't mean that it wasn't there. It just means that I wasn't feeling it. So it didn't happen for me, because it's really just emotional. So I would say consistency, staying with your schedule, hydration, checking with your medications, your herbs, see what they have in them, make sure you're not allergic to anything that's in them. Make sure that take your time, so that if you see that the baby is having an allergic reaction, right away if that's what you're doing. If you're doing some type of medication, be careful and watch, keep a log, to pay attention to what you're doing, and take it slow, and don't have any high crazy expectations. Ignore everybody, ignore YouTube and the pumping moms with the full freezer full of gallons of milk that nobody can drink. Ignore the people that are doing it. You cannot worry about them. You have to worry about yourself, right? And what you're doing, right? And if it comes down to it and it's a struggle for you, my understanding is that there are a lot of other options for formula. There's a lot of other alternatives that people are not utilizing. Very possible. I just was online the other day, and there's this alternative that's similar to Similac, and it's a BJ brand, and they are fully stocked. They're fully stocked, right? But people are looking for formula, but there's some formula sitting right there. So maybe there might be something else out there that you may be able to use as well. We would not recommend making your own formula, because the babies are different now. The stuff that we have out of the stores, it's all different now. It's not the same. You don't know what you are mixing together. You don't really know, and you might end up doing more harm than good. Milk banks, right? We discussed milk banks over a call. Those are there, right? Those might be available to you. Seek out a milk bank. If you have friends that know about that may be also breastfeeding and they may have milk, do your checks and balances on that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't just buy black market milk, right? I want to know people history before I put this in my baby's body. So with the shortage, I would really encourage your moms to really just relax and think about what makes sense for your family, and just don't step out and just get frantic and afraid and let fear cause you to choose a situation that is not good for you. When it comes to the pumping schedule too, we were talking about relactating and power pumping. There's something called power pumping, right? And power pumping is a situation where you set a schedule and you pump in a certain consistency in the schedule to bring the milk back. There's a lot of different articles out about different ways that you can power pump. Okay, that might be something that you can do, but again, with realistic expectations. Okay, because it's not going to happen overnight. All of this takes time. All of it. I hope that answers.
Yes, definitely. I think you said everything that needs to be said. I get the question because I'm the holistic doula. They're like, Chey, well, don't you believe that the homemade formulas are better than the store-bought ones anyway? And while answer, yes, to a certain capacity, I do believe that what we consume at home and what we can make out of whole foods is more nourishing than the formula.
Right.
However, I do not know the measurements of everything used in the formula. And yes, I have heard about arrowroot. Okay, so the ingredients that our parents were using when they were making formulas and things back then, those are not the same ingredients now. So carnation milk then is not the carnation milk that is in the stores now, even though the brand hasn't changed and this hasn't changed. Yeah. We are in a way more toxic environment. The way that we feed our animals, like some people are saying goat's milk, the goats, what they're eating is different than what it was before. The cow is different because yes, all the things that we believe are healthy now came from the preset times of when it was healthy back then. This apple right here that I have here, back then was a completely different apple than it is now.
That's right.
So we
That's
have
right.
to understand that, and our babies are already born into this toxic world, and they are in our wombs, and we ourselves, the toxins that we consume, they make up our bodies, and we have these toxins pretty much forever. It takes a long time to say that we are a toxin-free person. It's in the air, it's in the water, it's in the Swiss rolls you were eating yesterday. So we are in a highly toxic environment. And so trying to recreate and introduce these things that you're like, oh, these are healthier, may do more harm than good, because they are just a bunch of ingredients the same way that formula is. The only thing is, I can sue Similac. The court is not going to be easy on me when I'm like, oh, I made my own formula and it was a mistake. You know, if I mess something up in that, and I'm causing harm to children or to my own. So while I advocate for looking at different alternatives and going, you know, some people are like, oh, alkaline vegan. If that wasn't even your lifestyle before, trying to say it's your lifestyle now and introduce it now, it may cause some adverse reactions, especially, again, we are toxic. To try to counteract that, it's going to go bad first. We're going to have bad reactions before we'll have good, and we'll benefit from that. And do we want that to be what our babies are going through? Probably not, because we wouldn't know how to deal with it. We ourselves as adults, we're like, oh, I could do this. I know how to remedy this. If the baby falls ill, what can we really do to remedy it, especially if this is not your lifestyle? So yes, arrowroot, it can be binding. I know, I'm not going to say I have great knowledge on it. I don't know if you mean utilizing it, if you want to come off of mute and give me more context for it, using it as a base for formula. What do you want to know about arrowroot? What is your take on it?
Okay, so I have used arrowroot because it's a major part of where I come from, because we have an arrowroot farm, you know, where they manufacture and everything like that. One thing, it's not nutritious as the milk is, because, and for a newborn baby that is being breastfed, you have to make it like running water, like watery. So to get the baby to really be contented, as we would put it, it has to be thick. And when you make it in a thick consistency, it's binding. So that made the baby constipated. So now you have to go into something that we call swizzling, where you would raise the buttocks and you would put something to help the baby, you know, release. So it's caused more trauma to the baby, young digestive system, than it helps. Another thing that we used to use is custard. I don't know if you heard about it, right? My take on custard is still iffy, but that and arrowroot for me fall in the same category. But I feel like custard is a bit more better, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling what I use than the arrowroot. So yeah, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I know arrowroot for you know, sometimes you bake with it. You make like the arrowroot cookies and stuff. It's a natural. I don't know that it's not an herb, is it? Arrowroot doesn't come.
It's from, it's just like you know, like cassava. You ever?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's
so
a provision. It's a
yeah, it's
yes.
a brown provision. Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It can be harsh on baby's stomach, just like any of these cereals, you know, cassava, yuca, these starchy things can be. And so that's what I know about arrowroot. I don't know it in place of formula and how it would come into being for creating formula for babies. I'm sure it's just one of the ingredients, but like an arrowroot based formula, I don't know that that is even a thing. So please, I'm sorry if I'm wrong and that is a thing.
I've
And
never
that's what
I've never heard of an arrowroot based formula because of how thick it gets, because I can't imagine a formula be made from arrowroot.
Yeah,
I can't imagine.
it's pasty. It's thick. It's chalky or Yeah, so that is what I know. I know a lot of people now, and even before this formula shortage, I've had a lot of moms reach out to me about these alkaline formula alternatives. And it's a combination of like sea moss and blackstrap molasses and not sweet tea, which distilled water, and just a combination of these things, coconut milk, or coconut water. And while those ingredients, again, sound great, we do not know how they are going to affect the children. We don't know how precise it is to be measured. I'm just the kind of person that I don't want to take a risk. And it's easy for me to say that because I am a mom who exclusively breastfeeds, and I haven't had that formula issue in a very long time. My first son had formula, which it was an issue. I know that it's toxic. But I haven't had enough experience trying to find alternatives to safely recommend anything to anybody. My advice to everybody is just to do your research, understand what these things are that you're putting and why are you using them, because blackstrap molasses sounds good, sure, it looks natural, it comes from the earth, what is it, why are we using it? They use it for the iron and the sugar, but I know that because I know what it is and I use it in my own life, for myself, but somebody else reading that is just going to think, oh, great, and probably use it. So just understanding what you are using these ingredients for. Please be very cautious. I say go to other things already made before you try to recreate, just because, the chances of your baby reacting to it more severely than they would something homemade is less likely. So I say go that route. Now, I'm not big on formula, but that is my take on it. And now if I just go back to the relactating part, and you asking about it, also taking into account who we are relactating for. Now, I have groups of moms who are relactating for other moms. Their babies are already off of milk and they want to be able to offer their milk to other women's children. Again, you do not know, or hopefully you do, they know their lifestyle before you start trying to down supplements and stuff. Like fenugreek, great for boosting milk, but it's also, it could cause some gastric distress. It helps you with using the bathroom. And same with fennel. These things can help with lactation, but they can also have some adverse effects. And while on us, big grown human beings, it's like, oh yeah, I just go to the bathroom a little bit. With a baby, it can be more severe. Now this baby is having diarrhea and it's like, what do I do with this? Some arrowroot? But, just taking into account who you're relactating for, and trying to closely mimic, if you're doing it for somebody other than your own child, trying to mimic the way that they eat or the lifestyle they live and the age of the baby. Because if I am a breastfeeding mom right now and I'm pumping for a baby who is a newborn, my milk is for this 1.5-year-old. I'm hitting some different needs, baby, that I might not be able to help other baby with. So just being mindful and making sure to ask the questions and to serve in that capacity. Go ahead, Liz.
Right. So regarding the coconut milk, one of the things we are taught, well, my grandmother taught me, stay away from coconut milk when you have the young child, even the mother taking in coconut milk, because it do cause like diarrhea in the baby. It give them a stomach. I think it's because of some kind of fatty acid in it. I found out later. So when you said that, that really was an alarm for me, because a baby, even like the same when some people tell you stay away from curry foods, like spicy foods and stuff like that when you have the baby. The same if you eat the curry, the baby goes into this where the stomach is growling and they have this
gastric distress.
Right. The same happens with the coconut, especially with a young baby. And it's worse when you take the coconut, because it's like oil comes out. They just keep passing this oily consistency.
Yes.
And it's not a good experience.
Yeah. I hear that and I could see that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But again, because we've experienced these things, it's easy for us to talk on it, but for those who haven't experienced, it just sounds like a great natural alternative, right? And so people may want to introduce this. And I think with that, I feel that we gave our strong opinions on how to help in this shortage. I do believe in consulting with the milk banks, reaching out to moms in your area. If you have like a sister who's breastfeeding and wants to give you some milk for your niece or nephew, I mean, from their niece or nephew, go for it. But
Right.
I just ask that moms go ahead and ask the necessary questions. Let's not just act out of fear and
Yeah.
discernment and wisdom in deciding what is next, consulting with some professionals, and even if that means consulting with a naturopathic doctor, going that route if you don't trust the medical system, because as we discussed, we know how that can go sometimes. And just being mindful of what you're introducing baby to and yourself to, because if you're just trying to relactate and these aren't things that you use usually or a practice that you do usually, it can be a lot on the body. And our milk is produced through our hormones, right? It's through the pineal gland, the whole system of how we produce our milk. So if we are kind of fear pumping or stress pumping and not getting much and keep going, it's not benefiting anybody.
No, it's counterproductive.
Exactly. So knowing why you're doing it, how realistic are you with your goal of doing it? Because if I haven't had a baby, if I haven't breastfed a baby in 6 years, what am I really going to get when I try pumping? It's not going to be enough to really sustain anyone, and I'm going to have to be on the pump way more than I need to be to try to make something. And so a little unrealistic, not worth the stress. But for moms who have had new babies and they took a break and were doing formula and now they're like, oh, I should get back into breastfeeding, definitely all the things that Alexis said with the power pumping, making sure that you are having the right nutrition. So our avocados, our salmon, our healthy fats, walnuts, almonds, peanuts, these things are good natural ways to keep nourished and to induce lactation. Drinking your water, you have to drink a lot more water. If you now going from not having made milk to making milk, you have to make sure to hydrate, right, and eat your fruits and vegetables
and rest.
Yes,
and rest.
Having a nutrient dense diet. But yes, I'm going to open the floor for questions, comments, if anybody wants to say anything or share anything. Thank you for listening in. As I'm talking about breastfeeding and Kaya's like pulling on my shirt.
This was great information. Yeah, it was really great.
Good. Thank you so much. Like I said, we do try to do these monthly with different topics. This is recorded, so I feel comfortable with putting it out. I think that, nothing too personal was shared or anything too concerning. That's always I don't want to put your stories out there on a public platform, but I don't feel anybody shared any personal stories. So I will be posting this and I'll send all who participated the link so that they can see it. And yeah, actually I could press stop recording. Thank you. Alexis, if you want to say any last things for any of the video watchers before I stop recording.
No, just that, as doulas, you know what I mean? We're the support, and our clients are looking to us to kind of help them and encourage them to make the best informed decision they can. And they're always looking to us for information, so in all of these different type of scenarios, we can really, really help them if we just keep on top of the information. And it'll be good, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if all else fails, get with a consultant, peer counselor, breastfeeding specialist, lactation consultant, IBCLC. There's so many different type of titles, so many different type of people, ways to connect with people. Their local WIC office, they have breastfeeding consultants always available, or peer counselors available, and it's free, right? So there's always ways to get in contact with people. Your doula network is going to have people that can assist with this. There's people all around that are trying to help out, and I would say that would be the first rule of thumb to do if you're planning on doing anything. Instead of, after you do your research, talk to somebody to help you get yourself together,
Definitely. Thank you. And thank you guys all again. I'm going to stop recording.